Okay, welcome. And one of my favorite charts at the moment, which I have traded today, is this US dollar yen. Why is it my favorite chart? It's my favorite chart because this has hit a major level of support here, and I am looking for this to break up as into the back end of the year. So what I'll show you exactly where I'm trying to get in again tomorrow after trading it today. And I want to get in, ideally, we're 263 at the moment. Ideally, I'd like to get back in at 200, somewhere between 200 and 220. That's my target entry. So a retest of the Sunday range. There's a Sunday bar there. So I'm just looking for a retest of that. I hope we come as low as that. And then I think into Tuesday and Wednesday could potentially get back up. I'm not expecting a lot this week. It's a short week with Thanksgiving. So US are not around on Thursday, and it tends to be a very long weekend as traders take Friday off as well. So I think we'll see if we are going to get some reasonable action. I think we'll see a decent move into Tuesday and Wednesday, and then not a lot the rest of the week. Okay, so the fact that any chart that hits the fibs in the way I expect it to is a top candidate, and this is done well. There is a lot of resistance up there, which is why I think we may end up with a slow week, but ultimately I think if you look at the weekly chart, I think we can go to if we break these highs, I think we can at least go to 118 if we can break these highs. So we hold this area here into the weekend after a couple of big bars here in September and October. So if we hold this into the weekend, I think this could break up. It's a sweet chart pattern. So we've had 1, 2, 3, 4. This will be the fifth test. Every time the market hits a resistance line like that, it gets weaker. So let's go back to the daily. Now look at the smaller time frames. So this 60-minute has got the fibs on last week's price action, and this bar here is this range here. That's the Sunday open. So any test of anything between 200 and 220, which is this area here, is a buy, I think, and I hope it comes back that far, and that's what I'll be looking for tomorrow morning and then in the US session. So that's that one. The other one I like is let's look at the pound yen. You can see that as we came off last week's low, we dipped down into 763. Last week's lows was 790. So I very much hope that we get a pullback down here. So we've got UK budget on Wednesday. So let's hope we get some volatility and some retracements, and then potentially you can see this trend lines coming in from 7th to the 10th of November. If we bang into that and close above 950, then we could go. I'm looking again for a pullback to something between 800 and 830. So any dips in that one is going to get my vote for a push to the upside. DAX Decent start to the day. You can see on the daily chart we are again holding this fib zone, which if I put that out, you can see that's the highs of June. So we broke up through that into 13,536, and now we've come back into this zone to retest it. So decent move. There is a lot of political shenanigans in Germany which could affect this, but ultimately I will just stick with the charts. Again, I'm looking for the Sunday open price to something between 950 and 976, ideally. Let me get my prep sheet. Yeah, on the 60-minute chart, we opened at 983, dipped to a low of 860, 855, and here we are up here. So a lot of congestion. Last time we tested the 200 moving average, we dropped. So with the frailty of the German political situation, it'd be interesting to see if we do get a dip and we get a buy signal, and we push up here, if it can actually break. This could be a good place to get short around about the 100, 150 mark. If there are elections, it won't happen until next year. So again, we may just end up with a range bound. Excuse me, just yawning, I don't know why. If I take this off, you'll see last week we were very range bound, and in the early part of this week we are already using the same range as last week. So we came down here, dipped, came up, dipped, and you get the image. You know, we are really gravitating around this 950, 1300 mark. So let's see if we can drift back, pick up a bid, and then get running to 13,100. But overall, I think the market's going to want to wait till we get the Fed out of the way. So we need to be careful about that and make sure we don't get caught up in a lot of chop. So that's those three charts: the US dollar yen, pound yen, and DAX are my favorite charts. This Dow has had a great run. So any pullback to 350, 400, assuming we close up here. Obviously, we've got a couple of hours left yet. Then that's what I'd look for on that one. Oil, I think oil's good. Again, look how neat it holds the fibs. Get used to these 60-minute fibs and trust them, because if these hold the price, then they're a massive help to you in terms of entries and exits, obviously in line with Scalper School as well. But this was just it didn't come that far under that fib support. So fib support was 55.87. The low was 55.78. So a simple move off of this fibs, bearing in mind we had this action last week. So we had that nice move last week. So all we're doing is pulling back. The fibs has picked up the area the market is the most interested in. So we could potentially, there's the dotted line is the Sunday open. So we could potentially, if we can get back to last week's highs and dip a bit, we could potentially get into 58 plus. So that's So I would keep an eye on any retests of this 55.88, or if we close much higher, then obviously we'd just get a relevant pullback. But that one looks quite good. The gold is weak. So we pushed higher, nice, pushed into that sell signal. So there's the sell signal at 7 o'clock on Friday. At the Sunday open, we dropped from there, and at 2 o'clock today, we dropped from there. So I think this gold is done for now. Might see some lower levels. So that's pretty much it. If we look at the 15-minute chart today, you can see I had this marked off. This was marked off with, what was that marked off with? It wasn't Friday's action. I can't remember why I've put that range on there. So let's take it off then. That's gold. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong chart. I thought I was looking at pound US dollar yen. So yeah, so I've marked off the yesterday's highs and lows on that. So you can see here that's in the early Euro session open, and then later on at 10 o'clock we started to pick up. So I think there's a decent chance. Excuse me, the market will pull back, and the obvious place there is 238, which would be a retest of that 200. So this moving average has picked up the action there, but if you just had Friday's low on there, you would have seen that 195 was key, and we had one little breach of it, and then we have not had a breach of it since. Actually, that was Sunday, wasn't it? So if I now, oops, put tomorrow's level on there, and let's hope we get a decent pullback. If we look at 5-minute gaps, this must have been Friday's close on here, if I can find it. Yeah, it was. 222 was Friday's close. Popped up there, 130, pulled back in just before 2 o'clock, and here we are, sort of 40 plus pips higher. And you can see all of that support. Done that wrong. You can see all of this support here, holding up really nicely until we ultimately get the pickup at 10:15, and then run. So that 220, if I now convert that to today's close, yeah, so today's close was 240. So that's the target for that one. Okay. So as for the other charts, if we look at the 60 minutes on the others, Pound's holding up well. Daily chart's a bit of a mess. We are just moving around in this range. In fact, if I take that off, I still think we need a decent pullback here. It's all going to be down to the Fed on Wednesday as to whether this survives up here, I think. We have actually broken up. So at the moment, we're just kissing this support. That's the most important price range there at the moment, 270. So if we close above 270, then we could start to make it up to the highs again. But not a great chart. That's why I picked the other charts. The pound yen is a better daily chart. The US dollar yen's a much better daily chart. And the DAX is a better daily chart. Whereas the pound is, it's got too much congestion and resistance. Okay, so that's why I'm going to be focused on those. I think that's it for now, actually. Unless you want to look at some stocks. I'm just looking at. I was looking at oil stocks today. I think this APA is potentially going to come into play now. If oil's going to pick up, put the weekly on this side. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Oh, let me get rid of that. You can see so we had a decent drop from 68, and here we are at 41. So if this is going to do anything, we need to close above 40. If we close above 41.20 today, this may recover some. Oh, I don't like that. That's already gone. What's the other one I was looking at? Can't remember. Let's just leave it at that one for now. That's looking okay. The other UK stocks that I was looking at, Rolls looks good. That's already had a move from 860 to 985. That looks good for a push back to those highs, I think. So if I see 892 tomorrow, I will buy into that. BT. I think this is getting ready to go. I think this is going to, it's come from it's got a gap up there at 313. I will be buying more BT down here at 244, 245. Barclays has already had a bit of a run. I would want another pullback on that one. And in the US, just keeping an eye on Goldman Sachs, because I think that's important. If this one doesn't work and doesn't start moving higher, that could cause some problems. You can see Apple has done okay, come in contact with its moving average. That may now lift it up to 183, 185. So overall, these markets they've drifted back some in the early part, in this middle part of November. But I think as we come out of Thanksgiving, this is typically what you'd see, then I think we can do well. What I was going to show you is, let's just have a look at this chart a second. This is a monthly chart in the middle, showing monthly performance of the main currency pairs. You can see the yen is at the top here, pounds a close second, and CAD New Zealand are down this other end, and Aussie. So the oil has had a big, the gold's had a big impact on that, hence that pound Aussie we've been talking about. But I'm just hoping that with the moment the dollar is the sort of neutral one here that they've measured everything up against, and the yen has been higher. So for that US dollar yen to work, we need that to switch. We need this yen to get weaker and drop the other side of that dollar. So you can see the New Zealand dollar and the Aussie have been some of the better moves this month so far. And euro and pound pretty closely matched, 0.3 higher, 0.3 lower on the euro. So something to watch out for, because if we now go and look at some of the New Zealand and Aussie pairs based on that, you can see some of the moves. Yeah, this pound Aussie moved on Monday when I wasn't here. We had a decent move. No, it was Tuesday. I stand corrected. We pushed up on Monday, got a really nice buy signal on Tuesday, and then pushed higher the rest of the week. So as far as trading is concerned, I will be looking at the usual scalper score system, but I will be looking at the 60-minute charts for some longer term calls, at least once or twice a week. I will be doing that particularly in this US dollar yen trade. If we do get the right pullback here, I would certainly hang on to that for the rest of the week as we get into Fed and the back end of the week. The other one, pound yen, I wouldn't hold. I'd only scalp. I'm not ready to hold that yet. But US dollar yen, I would. And the others are not swing tradable. This euro US dollar daily is just about holding on. There's a sell signal here a sell signal by my book on 15th. We've done nothing, kept butting back into that range on that one, but not really doing much significant. So I think if we come down to 650 and hold, I think as a buy, I will be shorting that anything around about the 750, 800 mark, and then see if we can end up lower based on all this congestion and resistance up there. Okay, any questions about scalping today? Have you guys scalped today or not? You taking any trades today? Okay, good. If you kept your powder dry today, that's good. Gives you an opportunity to get ready for tomorrow and get some trades in tomorrow. That Euro US does look as if it wants to come and test 117, which of course we're not far off from now. Okay. Any questions? I think what I might do, as it's a quiet week and there's not too much to discuss on these charts, I think I might just leave it there unless you've got any questions. Let's have a quick look at how this one performed. Let me just change the screen. One hour fib for entries. Okay, good. We'll talk about that in a second. Yeah, Dow. If this Friday's close, it came within a few pips of Friday's close. That's the dotted line at 357. The low was 363. So symbolic of just how strong that Dow was. And of course, if you ranged it, it didn't really get much of a pullback. You just had to take 387, 385, 387, which is still doing well at the moment. 60-minute entries. Good question. Let's go to US dollar yen. I think that there's a couple of basic factors with these 60-minute charts. In the early part of the week, the Sunday Open, I think, is critical. We didn't get any gaps, or hardly any gaps this week. So pretty average opening moves. But you can see how this 212 played a big part in the US dollar yen today, because we hardly dipped under that. So the Euro session started at, well, it dipped to a low, or dipped, actually touched last week's low at 193. And then by 9 o'clock, we closed at 215. So not that many pips off of yesterday's low. It's a nice, easy trade here. So if you've got a key level of support holding, i.e. last week's low on a buyer's bar, just holding the Sunday range, then just buy dips into that little area here. So, for example, if I box off, oh, I've not done it. Hang on, got the wrong tool. If I box the Sunday Open and last week's low, you can see how this 195.200 was a key price, and if you take that sort of price, your stop can be really titchy under 193. So it's a really tight stop that will keep you in it. Well, in this case, will kept you in it for several hours. So yeah, this particular one is a real favourite of mine for this coming week. So that's one area to look at. If we're getting later into the week and this US dollar yen is, let's say, for example, it's pushing up here, then on Wednesday, I would look for a pullback to this 265. Tomorrow, because we've pushed up here out of this zone, I'm looking for just a retest of that zone now. So anything from 200 to 220 is my target entry for tomorrow. So this is wave one. Hoping wave two may only give us a 240, 235, 240 pullback. So I'll have to watch out for that. I don't want to get too greedy. This fib level here could become the most, although ideally I want this price, if it's very bullish, then it shouldn't come lower than 240. So 240 to potentially 316 is a Tuesday potential area. If that then holds, then I would look for 270 on Wednesday to see if we can get up to last week's high. So in short, what I'm doing is just treating each level as a buy area on the ground on something that's bullish like this, and then looking for targets above. And I'm doing that because if you look at the daily, well, I've talked about this already, but I'll just go through it again. I'm ultimately looking for this to close above 285, 300, and then reach out for 115, longer term 117, and then this year's high at 118. 118,750 is the ultimate high of, it's on the 3rd of January, we tested 11865. If it's really bullish, we should test 119, and if it really goes for it, we could see 122. That's why I like this chart, because I think we're about to experience some of these fib levels up here. If you look at Elliott wave on this, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5. I'll just change that color. Hang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. So that's a 5 and 3 again. 5 and 3. And now we are in wave, a new wave 1 of a potential 5-wave pattern. So this is 5. These corrective waves are 3. And now we've got potential wave 1 underway. So if we get a 1, 2, and 3, or maybe a 5-wave move, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't matter. As long as we get up there, I'm happy. So I'll be looking for a swing trade position to get there. Okay, and if we get up here and put a sell signal in, obviously I'm going to be much more cautious with it. It's going to take up, it's not a particularly fast mover most of the time. So that's that example. Let's show another example. Let's use the Dow. So 60-minute entries on the Dow. Overnight, we have these buy signals right on yesterday's breakup area. Decent buy signal here at 9 o'clock on this Dow. So it's possible we may come down to 322. If too many US traders have missed out on this little run, later in the week we may find, or into next week, we may see 300, 320 area again. In the meantime, anyway, I'll be looking for Sunday open. Now we've pushed right above Sunday open. This dotted red line here was the Sunday open. They've taken it to where they didn't want it to go, thrown in the buy signal, pushed it up. So now I want, I think Sunday open was resistance, hence the sell on overnight. Now that supports. I would ideally like to see 350. We're currently 450. Okay, if we get a buy signal here at 390, 395, then obviously I'm going to buy here. But ideally, I'd want another test of that Sunday open. Another example of 60-minute setups. Oil we've already talked about. But a good move off of this zone, fib zone, 55.87. So it looks as if we want to see the Sunday open again at 56.75. If that's the case, then I would try and buy 56.50. Okay. one thing I normally do, and I will photograph it for you. I'll tell you what, I can do that. I can photograph it right now. I'm going to show you in a couple of minutes a manual type of check I do on the markets. So the magic of modern day technology. I'm going to give you my sheet. Just got to upload it, 1 second. Right, it's uploaded. I'm just going to grab it. Is this microphone any clearer than what you'd normally expect, or is it about the same? About the same. Right, here we are. Just coming up now. This is my working out. This is my manual sheet for the DAX. So I've marked off last week's low. This SO stands for Sunday Open. So I've marked off the Sunday Open. This is where we hit today. So this is now my target for tomorrow. Is that right? Hang on a second. I haven't drawn. I've actually made a mistake on this one, haven't I? Oh, that's a shame. I've made a mistake on this sheet. Anyway, this is what I normally do. I mark off. I print off a few of these sheets with the fibs on. Then I go and manually mark off the price. Then I go and put a marker pen on the Sunday Open. Because if you get a really bullish chart that has broken, opened here, drifted up, and just pushed right up, then I'm going to want to try and buy this. The Sunday Open could easily be a decent pullback pivot for tomorrow. I'll go into more detail of these in the room. Actually, I'll talk about these more in the room. But yeah, that's what I would normally do. I think I've actually, when I was drawing this up, I thought I think I was looking at the pound yen with a DAX sheet, which is why I think I've screwed that one up. Anyway, you get the idea. And as we're talking, the US dollar yen is still inching up. Right, that's just hit. Look how good these 60-minute charts are. I've just thought of another 60-minute chart I'm going to show you before we finish. So here's the buy zone. It was confirmed at midday, 12 o'clock, because it closed higher. Pull back in the next hour, and then look, we just hit right into that fib zone at 269. So if you bought either yesterday's low or last week's low or the Sunday Open, 270 was a good target. We now look at the euro yen. You will see that we sold right at the top of that zone, 209, 809, sorry, 11809, right up there on the top of that zone to the pip. And we look as if we're going to come right back down to 727. 727 was the launch of this move overnight and into Europe and London Open, but pinpoint accuracy. So look at your control sheets, because I talk about zones. I talk about zones and extensions. In Scalper School, that's what we covered, and that's what the control sheet's got as well. So if this euro closes under 726 and doesn't hold last week's lows at 636, then these extensions could be hit. But we're right on the button for the short at that 809. Okay, so the extension areas, if you get a chart that starts up here in the early part of the week or midweek, so if you got a chart that's sort of coming to here, let me get the right pen, never got the right color, have I? Let's say, for example, I'll tell you what, let's get rid of this and I'll get, let's move this right across. Right, so there's a clean fib sheet. So just push the euro out of the way. If you've got a market, so where's the Sunday Open? Sunday Open's here. So you've got a market that comes into Monday, dips down, gets bought and closes up. Then I'd want to buy the Sunday Open and this support area to then see if we can get up to the extensions. If we get sell signals at these extensions, let's say we get a pin bar, then I'd want to trade this down to these fib levels. But if they hold these extensions, then I would use these as buy signals to see if we can get up. And sometimes you get a chart that closes down in these zones in Monday or Tuesday and puts a three-wave reversal pattern in and then starts to wave up. So just as you can get sell signals in the extensions for the downside, then you get buy signals in the extensions for the upside. Last week, let me have a think. Last week, the euro yen, I didn't pick up this up last week. I missed it. What happened in the euro yen? Let me just correct this. Last week in the euro yen, we had this. So if I put the fibs on the previous week, the fibs would have been here. And like I said, I missed this last week. But just study this. So last week the fibs will look like this, and on Monday we pushed up. Tuesday we just shot up. Look, we go past the 127 extension, and this is the previous week's low. So on Wednesday we drift lower and then come back to retest the 127 extension and sell. Back down to last week's low, dip underneath, sell at the high again, dip down, and then we close under last week's high, and then we do and we get a Friday push lower. Not it's easy in hindsight, this one, I have to admit, because I missed it. I actually thought that because it had such a big, decent move up here, I thought these pullbacks would get bought. I remember trying to buy this. You did get a small move out of it, but then we just got this drop action. If something's holding, if something's done that sort of powerful move and then just dips under last week's high, I would always just buy this to see if we get back up to the extensions. But it didn't work out. It's something you need to, the way in which these fibs work is something you need to really work on if you're not used to it. You need to really do some extra study and pick up some, I'll do what I can, but it's something that you need to be very clear about and understand how fibs works in terms of zones and extensions. Ordinarily, I would call this, let me think of an example. Most of the time, if this breaks up like this, there's this big powerful move, I would call this the ambush zone. Ordinarily, I would expect that to be to the market to pull back, to ambush some less experienced traders, and for then this to start to wind up again. Well, it didn't do that. It just carried on falling over in the end. I will do some more work on it. It's an area that works really well. You just need to see it in action. You need to get used to how the markets behave around the previous week's fibs. Okay, markets have already gone pretty quiet today. Ever since, or for the last 3-4 hours, this has done hardly anything. Big push up into 3 o'clock, then 4 o'clock. Here we are 4 hours later, and this is pretty much flat. So we're already getting a lot of low volume doldrums moves at the moment. While in the meantime, the US dollar yen is still pushing up. Okay, right. So US dollar yen is a focus of mine tomorrow, and I will be spending time on the pound yen. The yen pairs have had a good start to the week. Let's see if we get some follow through. All right, well, I'll cover that in more detail as we are trading in the room. And I'll leave it for there, unless you've got any more questions. Voice is faint. I haven't done anything to the mic at all. So the sound quality is gone, has it? Is my voice disappearing? Is it just quieter? Is the sound quieter? Right. Okay. I've not done anything to the mic or whatsoever, so I don't know why it was good in the beginning and not now. Okay, I'll keep an eye on that. All right, I'll see you in the room tomorrow. Okay, bye for now. See you tomorrow.